Hello, everyone, and thank you for listening to another episode of the Law Firms of the Future. I'm really excited to be speaking with Darryl Cooke, the founder and executive chairman of gunnercooke, a corporate and commercial law firm established to challenge, improve, and evolve the way that legal services are delivered to businesses in the 21st century. Darryl's been practicing law for almost 3 decades, beginning at S.J. Berwin and continuing at Addleshaw Goddard, where he began what soon became one of the firm's strongest practice areas at the same time as joining the board. He later moved to DLA Piper, where he headed private equity in EMEA. Darryl's also published 2 books, Private Equity, Law and Practice, which is now in its 6th edition, and To Innovate or Not to Innovate, a blueprint for the law firm of the future, which I highly recommend to all you listeners. So welcome, Darryl.
Thank you very much, Bernie, and I'm delighted to have been asked, and I'm very much looking forward to this. So as long as your questions aren't too tough, but looking forward to it.
It's great to have you here, and don't worry about it. So let's dive right in. So can you tell me a little bit about the origin story of gunnercooke?
Yes, certainly. Well, the firm actually began in 2010, but there was a strong history before that. There was a long preparation, I think, before that. So my background has been very much. I was a barrister in London for a few years, which I think developed various entrepreneurial instincts. Becoming a barrister, because barristers are all self-employed. But then I went into a multinational, one of the largest companies in the world, and I got a lot of very good management training within that multinational, which I enjoyed. So when I moved back into private practice with some very, very big law firms, I think I was already questioning of the services that those law firms provide. And I always felt that they needed to be challenged and those services could be better. But it took me a long time to get round to really doing that. And I do remember, I think it was sometime I went to watch, England playing football in Portugal in the European Championships with a friend who'd just left as a partner at PwC. And we stayed up, I think, a couple of nights, just all night, talking about the legal services model and how it could be improved. And that was really the start of it. But I think from there, being a typically cautious lawyer, I suspect, I then went out and spoke to a lot of people, 56 or so heads of legal, general counsel, chief executives, corporate financiers, private equity, etc. And I asked them 2 questions. And the first one, what did they dislike about lawyers, which is a very dangerous question, actually. And I wouldn't recommend it because I had reams of paper on how they disliked how the legal service was delivered. And the second question, though, was what would they do if they set up their own law firm? And there was virtually no answers to that, and virtually none at all. And I remember reading later, I think it was Henry Ford said, if we'd asked the customer, we'd just have faster horses. And Steve Jobs said, it's up to us to show the customer what they want. So I think from that, from the knowledge we discerned, and from that then gave us the impetus to kind of develop the gunnercooke model. So it launched a few years later in 2010.
Interesting. So I guess what are some of the specifics that distinguish gunnercooke from traditional law firms?
That's a really good question, actually, because in lots of ways, I know we're clearly, the lawyers within the gunnercooke model are clearly self-employed. They do a revenue share where they take the lion's share of their revenues. But actually, and then there are a few firms like us that have developed now, and they refer to themselves as platform models. And I don't really refer to ourselves as a platform model at all. I think all we do differently is we remunerate differently. So we give that freedom that the lawyers have is really key, because it means that you don't have a boss. It means that you can design your own life. And that's incredibly important when you don't have a boss and design your own life. But it allows them ability as well to earn a lot more money if that's what they want to do. But I see us as a traditional law firm with a different remunerative model. So we work really hard on creating a really, really strong culture. It's not just a platform. It is traditional in that regard, in that the lawyers work very closely together and there is a really strong culture within the firm. The remunerative model is very different. And what that does is give the lawyers the freedom to design the life how they want to live. So some lawyers might just, can earn less than 100,000, and others are earning well over 1 million and over 2 million. So there is a very vast difference in the lawyers within the model.
Interesting. So given the fact that these lawyers are really designing their own lives and their own careers, what do you do to foster this sense of culture among all of your lawyers to keep the feeling of working for one unified law firm?
Yeah, I mean, that is a really good question. And I do remember when we set out, a lot of people used to say, well, how are you going to create that sort of teamwork in an organization where we encourage our lawyers to work at home if they want to work at home, to work at clients' offices, etc. And so we have worked, but I do believe there's a stronger culture in our organization than any law firm I have personally ever been at. And I look at it as say, well, we have a vision, we know exactly where we want to go, we have a really strong set of values, but we also have this incredible culture, which is like a buzz around the organization. So we're always very innovative. We're always doing very different things. And I think we really focus on that culture and making it a place where people want to be part of. And that's key to us. It's not centralized and that people are told what to do in any way, but we work really hard on doing things that people want to do. We actually have developed a culture book. We use the phrase that everyone can copy what we do, but they can't copy our culture. And we really focus on that culture now. That culture book is being used because we're now starting to make a foray to go international. And in that regard, we've said we want people to be autonomous, have their own freedom, develop what they want, but we want to engender a culture that is consistent right across the whole business. And actually looking at that, Bernie, I think to say, we're now becoming quite a big organization. So we're now over 400 people, growing very, very rapidly. The key to it, therefore, is to have the benefits of a big organization and a strong culture, as well as being a small culture at the same time. So we'll have a big symposium at Oxford University every year. We'll bring everyone together, which is a fantastic couple of days of celebration, but we'll do very small things. We'll put people into WhatsApp groups where they support each other on a very small basis as well. So there's an immense amount of thought going into culture. It goes into culture, yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting. It seems like the small steps are just as significant as the larger steps.
Absolutely. There's a phrase that I think Sir David Brailsford at British Cycling uses called the aggregation of small gains. And that's exactly what it is. The Japanese call it Kaizen. It's about those small steps.
Yeah. So what are some of the specific values that underpin Gunner Cooke's culture?
Yeah, I'm really big on values, but I do think there's two parts to it. There's one is creating those values, and then there's one is really living those values. And we do have a strong set of values that underpin the organization, really key to the organization. So, and they're not massively different in some ways. And I think it's how we execute them. So, one of the first values is really client service. Well, I suspect most law firms have some kind of value rated around client service. The way we implement it, we don't want to be known for the number of lawyers that we have or profits per partner or the number of offices that we have, but we want to be known for client service. So we introduced the concept of Net Promoter Score, which a lot of industries use, whereby you can get a score as an individual lawyer from -100 to +100. The industry average, I think, the last time I looked was about 19. Our average as a firm is 88, and you'll get some lawyers with scores of 100, etc. And we really push that. We teach our lawyers much more on service. We focus them on that, and then their clients give them that score. So that's kind of important to us. But then also there's other things that are really important. So innovation is clearly a value to us. I remember when a traditional law firm once and I was on the board trying to put innovation on as a value, and it was as though I was talking a different language. They just didn't quite get it at the time. And I do still feel that law firms, when they talk about innovation, it's still very much aesthetic. And we really really do believe in innovation, whether it's small innovation or whether it's large innovation. So innovation is key. It's how we started off. That will continue to be one of our values. Teamwork is clearly key. I think when we started out, people used to say, well, how are you going to get people to work in teams if they're not in the office or if, etc., they're all over the place? And I kind of partly believed it. And it was the kind of groundwork for us really thinking about our culture and how we developed our culture. But teamwork, I think, now is stronger in our organization just about any firm definitely of any firm I've ever worked at. And then the final thing was we kind of realized that all our lawyers, we don't want to be centralized and tell people what to do. We don't tell them what number of hours they've got to do. We don't tell them what targets are. We let them decide that themselves. We just teach really good behaviors. But the way we do it is, we did a lot of reading around the economic behaviorists. We looked at the nudge unit at number 10 in the UK. and we developed a value called nudge. And that is very much encouraging people to do the right things, but letting them make those decisions. So, we talk it's not my phrase. You may know better than Bernie. I think it might have been Richard Taylor's or someone, but it kind of says we'll put fruit at eye level, but we won't ban junk food. That's not our job to ban junk food, but we'll try and teach the right things. And when people join us, we want them to become better business people, and that's what our aim is.
So while it's clear that you provide a really great framework for the right type of lawyer to succeed, it seems that that lawyer must have certain characteristics that will kind of help them fit into the firm. So would you be able to elaborate a little bit on what you look for when you're recruiting lawyers to join?
Yes, you're right. And I think we've learned a lot of things over the years. So we do tend to recruit from the firms where lawyers are better trained, so they come with a really good training. But our focus is, as I say, once they arrive with us, on the first day, on the welcome day when they arrive, we say, in fact, it happens before they arrive, we say, you're no longer a lawyer, you are now a lawyer and a business person. So our job is to teach those business skills, which can be business development, it can be service related, it can be whatever. And that's what we see as our focus. But to do that, we need certain types of lawyers. They don't have to come with vast amounts of work, but they have to come with a certain mindset, that kind of desire to improve themselves as a lawyer, themselves as a business person, and just generally themselves. So we do a strengths test, a psychometric test before they arrive, which is just focused on mindset. And we look for lawyers who have the right mindset, that want to improve themselves, and as a result, they'll improve our business and our brand.
Yeah. So I'd like to hear a little bit more about Gunnercooke Associates and some of the less experienced lawyers that you recruit and how you train them.
Yes, this is a really focus of us in it's starting to really grow and develop now, because we initially the model started out that because of when we were talking to clients, etc., that they wanted senior lawyers. So we still, on the Gunnercooke law firm, the lawyers in that have all got 10,000 hours of experience. The kind of Malcolm Gladwell guide to how many hours of experience you would be before you're an expert. But actually, we also felt that we needed to teach the lawyers of tomorrow. We had a responsibility to do that, and actually we wanted to do it as well. And we look at the way traditional firms do that training. I talk about it in the book as well. And we felt that actually it could be much, much better. So what we've now done is started to open up to put our young lawyers together in Gunnercooke Associates. We do it for a number of reasons. So we put it so they can work together and learn how to manage and develop and have meetings and actually grow the firm as a group of people. We also put them there so we develop really strong training programs for them. So that can be strong technical training programs, but it can also be very, very commercially minded MBA style training programs as well. We, through our operating partners business, our management consultancy business, we deliver a lot of MBA modules to different universities. So we bring that together and we focus that on helping the young lawyers to develop as well. At the same time, the day they join, they're put onto a coaching program. So we have what's called a process, which the senior lawyers have as well. It's called a VTO process, a vision traction organizer, and we teach them very, very specific skills and coach them into their business development, into the management of themselves and management of their clients, etc. And so it's a much more focused, service-orientated law firm, I think. But then, as I say, the exciting thing is we encourage them to develop it themselves. So they will market themselves internally to the main lawyers. They will also market themselves externally into venture capital markets or other markets.
Yeah. I'm also curious to hear about Gunnercooke's investment in local communities.
Yeah, I remember having big debates when we started. We never wanted, as I said earlier, to be known for our profits per partner or the number of offices, etc. But we did want to be known for the service to our clients, how we create better lifestyles for our lawyers, but also how we serve our communities. So we worked really hard on how we could serve our communities, and we now have a foundation which is integral to the business. The benefit that we'd have, our lawyers are self-employed, they have the freedom to take the day off, take the afternoon off, and so a lot of them will work alongside a lot of the things we're trying to do from the foundation point of view, as well as working on their own businesses. There's lots of things that are happening in that, so we work at the moment with about 120 charities or such, where We'll put, and the aim is to enhance the effectiveness of a charity. We do believe in leadership. Therefore, if we can help the leader of a charity to enhance their effectiveness, then that charity will grow a lot quicker. So we will put them with a business leader. We'll put 6 or 7 charities together. We have a strong structure, how they work, how they support each other. We bring people in to talk to them. We give them a strong training program. We connect with clients. We do a lot to enhance those charities. But then we do other things as well. So we have a real burden, I suppose, for loneliness. We think loneliness is a massive issue, whether it's with young people or with old people. And we're now working on projects which we're financing with some really strong funders at the moment to develop bookshops across the UK. So they'll become strong. I mean, I love Amazon to bits, but actually it's also seen the demise of community bookshops in lots of ways. So we're opening bookshops across the UK, across a franchise where we'll encourage people to combat loneliness through those bookshops. And we're opening, I think the process won't be about 7 at the moment. 5 of them are lawyers leading on those. 2 of them are management consultants leading on them. So we do that as well. We also have a big project where we try to link our corporates, our large corporates and our mid-market corporates with our charitable foundation. Kind of have the belief that a CEO should be looking not just after their employees and suppliers and customers, but they should also be looking after the local communities. Globalization is fantastic, brought lots of efficiencies, lots of innovation, but what it has done is it's not helped the local communities. And if you look in a local community within a square mile, it's a microcosm of everything. There'll be loneliness, there'll be mental health issues, there'll be disability issues, lack of opportunity issues. There'll be lots of things within that square mile. And what we're trying to do is get the debate and awareness going so that a CEO sees that as their legacy. Their legacy isn't just profit, but it is how are they helping the local community. So we try to talk to them about it and say, look, I personally think that corporate social responsibility or CSR is largely dead because there's a limit to how many gardens you can dig or how many walls you can paint, but actually you can really get involved. And I think, in my view, it should be integral to any business. And the CEOs, next to the finance director on one side, it should be the head of CSR on the other side, the head of corporate social responsibility on the other side. And he or her, the CEO should be spending at least half their week on looking at the community and how they're helping the community. So we're trying to challenge people and talk to people about that. But we really believe in it. And we're starting to have some influence on some people.
Yeah. No, I think that's great, and especially that these initiatives focus on concrete problems and real impact as opposed to just a one-off project. I think that's really great, and it's really unique. So
exactly. Thank you.
One thing that I took out of your book and our conversations is that you're very well read and you read a lot in disciplines outside of law. How have insights drawn from other fields informed the creation and evolution of Gunner Cooke?
That is a great question. My teachers would love to hear that I'm well read. I don't think they ever thought I was well read when I was at school. But you're absolutely right. And I think it was a very deliberate policy that I've always felt that legal services are way behind other service organizations in many regards in terms of the service that they live. So it was a very focused approach to read and to talk to as many different businesses and industries as possible. And I think if you look over the last 10 or 15 years, industries have been transformed by some terrific businesses. So, particularly in the US where, Amazon, started the book industry and then completely redeveloped the retail industry, and Uber's completely changed the travel industry, and Airbnb's changed the holiday industry, and Google's changed, Google's kind of changed everything, hasn't it? So, but there is that kind of fantastic vibrancy and energy around those industries and those businesses. And so we've taken a lot from that. We will, I always used to say in the business that let's not look at other law firms. Let's look outside the industry and see where we can pick up new ideas and new thinking from. So it was a very deliberate policy to do that.
Yeah. You alluded to this a little bit before, but tell us a little bit more about your plans for global expansion and who you're looking to recruit.
Yeah, I mean, I think we spent a long time developing the model, and so we're very comfortable with it now. We're very excited about it. So we've had lots of approaches internationally, but probably wasn't the right time to do. And what we did do, we took a step back, and as I said, we spent a lot of time developing what we call this culture book. So when we open overseas, our aim is that the cities where we open will have total autonomy in how they develop and how they grow their organization. And we will never set them targets in the way I think a lot of centralized UK and US law firms work as well, where they'll send targets out to the overseas. And we will never do that. But what we'll be really keen to do is make sure that they have the same culture that we have. So we're at a stage now where we've put that together. We're now talking to a lot of different people. We won't make it easy. So we have said, look, we can show them the opportunity, but actually then we've developed what we call a friendship club. And that friendship club is about the leader in that local city really getting to know us. So getting to know the key people so we understand them, their lives, we understand them as people, we trust them. They do this mindset test that we talk about. We talk about their families. We really get close. So to me, that is the most important thing. Once we know the model works and we can take it anywhere and we know it will work really well, got lots of experience in it now, but the real key is having the trust between the person who is going to take it on to that next stage. So we put a lot of effort into working that out. And, as I say, we're on the journey now with 6 or 7 different areas. I think we'll probably start to open a couple a year. But we're not going to rush it. It's got to be right.
Yeah, but very exciting.
Yeah, thank you. It is. Thank you.
My last question, and this is a question that I'm asking all of our guests, hearkening back to the name of this podcast, is about your vision for the law firms of the future.
It is interesting because it's a great question, isn't it? I'm a really big fan of lawyers. I believe that how we uphold the rule of law, I think the integrity, the hard work, the intelligence of lawyers is fantastic. But I do feel that our law firms have got stuck. And I think the response is, AI will change it all, I don't think is the answer. I think we have to look at our structures and our models and really lead from the front. So it is a really important question. I would love much more firms like us to set up. I'd be very happy to help people to do that because to me, being a lawyer is trivial, but particularly when you're in the very major firms where the pressure is phenomenal, it's also quite an unpleasant and unhappy place to be as well. And I think that it should be perfectly possible to be a lawyer, to enjoy being a lawyer, but to have that control over your own life as well. And I think that is the real challenge. So, everyone talks about AI, but I still think there's a dreadful phrase in London called beasting. I don't know if it's anywhere else, where it's about, great young lawyers come in, passionate, moralistic, really great view of the future, and then the traditional law firm just takes their life away from them. So they're there till 10 or 11 every evening working their socks off. And actually changes them as people, in my view. They stop being that kind of fun person that they wanted to be, and they get stuck in a particular way of working. And I'd really love to change that. So I'd love us to be even more successful so we can bring more lawyers in to do that. But I'd also be very, very happy for others to come in and develop our model and move that forward.
All right. I think some great insights today. So thank you again for joining us. And I look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Okay. Thanks, Bernie.